Electricity and emissions from Bitcoin mining. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency mining are often portrayed as dirty industries in terms of the emissions they produce and the amount of energy they require. These arguments are logically flawed for many reasons. I'm going to expose how some of these arguments are based on a deep misunderstanding about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency mining and a lack of logic about how the whole generation consumption axis works in terms of energy and electricity. When speaking about emissions, it is important to talk about the industry and the economic distortions that governments create. China is the classic example. One of the reasons why Bitcoin mining has high emissions is because China subsidizes its electricity, and despite an effort to clean the industry by utilizing less coal and more renewables, its electricity generation is still dirtier than that of other countries which don't subsidize electricity generation or consumption as heavily. These market distortions, together with the dirtier electric plans, the availability of hardware that is produced locally, and a desire to access forex markets, which the government restricts, make China a factor in Bitcoin's poor emissions performance. Critics could just blame the Chinese government for those emissions, and then they would be on the right track, especially because Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies don't need more mining power as adoption levels rise. That is another blatant misconception that the same economic distortions we see in electricity markets in China have helped propagate. Bitcoin can process the same amount of transactions if it has half the mining power in the network, and it can do it as quickly as it does it now because difficulty adjusts to keep the time intervals between the hashing of new blocks virtually constant. Of course, a sudden drop in mining power that is big enough in terms of magnitude will slow down the network until difficulty adjusts, but ultimately, mining power added to the network was a function of price and partially of exogenous economic distortions. About a year ago, putting another ASIC online was extremely profitable because Bitcoin prices were on the rise and difficulty was lower. Electricity prices, especially in China and other countries that subsidize electricity and generate it using dirtier sources of energy, allowed many to attain 5 or 6 month return on investment on their new ASICs. As a result, mining difficulty increased significantly and returns dropped as a result. This brings me to the final point regarding logical flaws in emission arguments against Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Markets balance themselves out. As prices drop and returns on mining decrease, miners should drop out of the networks, or at least mining difficulty should stop increasing. That means cryptocurrency, and specifically Bitcoin, should curb their emissions by letting the market balance everything out, including the sources of energy for the electricity they need to operate, and the way electricity is generated. We need to let the markets work and pressure governments into understanding that they create the market distortions that increase emission levels.